Good morning, everyone. You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy. Before we go forward, I want to go over some of the points that I've been trying to make to you in this series. Human beings, and it doesn't matter where you're from, where you're born, how old you are, doesn't matter. We have certain things that are the same. We respond to sounds of speech and symbols. We have been trained over the years, of course, to do this even more so. It's why there's signs on everything to choose which bathroom to go to, when you're supposed to stop, when you're supposed to yield. The majority of people on this planet know these things subconsciously. And the brain responds to the tiniest speech details and symbols, of course. Now, the sounds that make up speech, built from the slightest variations in vowels, consonants, trigger some very specific responses in the part of the brain responsible for all speech and sight processing. Researchers have reported today in Science phonemes, I think it's called, phonemes, such as ba, sound in bad, or the da, sound in dad, are thought to be the smallest linguistic elements that change a word's meaning. But the study suggests that the brain's superior temporal gyrus can recognize even smaller, tinier, minute bits of speech called features that may be common across all languages. They've known for a pretty long time now what area of the brain is responsible and at least really important for processing speech sounds. What they haven't known is the details about how individual sounds are processed. The team made the discovery by working with 6 patients who were preparing to undergo brain surgery to treat epilepsy. An array of electrodes were implanted in the brain of each person as part of pre-surgical testing. Each volunteer then listened to speech samples comprising 500 sentences spoken by 400 people that covered an entire inventory of phonic American English sounds. So there are temporal triggers. When the researchers compared all the electrode data to the different phonemes heard by the volunteers, they found that the phonemes with similar features seemed to elicit specific characteristics and electronic responses in the neurons located within each patient's superior temporal gyrus. They're seeing this as a starting point for speech, the mechanism that underlies the brain's seemingly effortless decoding of a stream of speech. One of the things that happens in speech and language is that we transform sounds into meaning, and we do this automatically. A set of feature units in some combination gives rise to a sound, another phoneme. These combine to create a word, and together groups of words that create meanings. The surprising thing, and as we've been talking about over these couple weeks, similar sounding words, even if they start the same, even b and d, elicit very similar responses in our brain, no matter what we're seeing at the time. Now, the discovery of similar capacity in all of these brains opens the door to studying. They're talking about the evolution of speech recognition, identifying the neural mechanisms that make up normal phonic coding in the brain can lead to better understanding of abnormalities. For people with hearing loss, for instance, this may mean the development of more sophisticated processors to aid artificial hearing. Now, of course, my take on this is absolutely not. It will not do that. They are finding more interesting ways to develop mind control. Now, this was out in Science Mag, January 30th, So mind control has just become subtler. Now, moving from that to things that we've heard some other people say to us over the last couple of years about reverse speech and micro expressions. And the truth is a really funny thing, isn't it? First, it's quite colorful and warm, as we're always splitting it into degrees of honesty, as well as various shades of gray. Next, we want to reserve it for only the select self-chosen ones, and that, of course, doesn't work. Then we protect and defend the truth, usually with another ring of lies. Everybody lies, just ask anyone. Here again, we have a kind of color code for our lies. Little white lies are the ones that we allow ourselves when sparing another's feelings is of equal importance as of keeping a secret. The other end of the spectrum could be the black-hearted lies, when the liar takes perverse pleasure in the deception of others, or uses lies specifically to hurt or inflame. It sounds like a virus, doesn't it? And, I'm using the term black and white sparingly. I know many people say we shouldn't use those terms anymore. It's racial. Look, they're colors. Try to get over it. Anyway, moving on. Those who most often and fragrantly lie to us demand a total honesty from us when it is largely absent in society, all business, and completely non-existent in politics. It is perhaps the worst of double standards here, which society prefers to ignore rather than remedy. Lying is something we do all the time, if not every day, in every conversation. But I'm going to get to that. The thing here is that lying is supposed to be a big no-no if you put credibility into the top 10, and I mean commandments here. Now, I grant you, it is rather low on the list and does seem to condemn bearing false witness against thy neighbor, while being rather obscure in regards to the fellow across town. What's the use of having such holy commandments from a creator if we can arbitrarily just hold ourselves and others somewhat immune from them as suits our will? And, I think that's a pretty good question. What is worse, all those pantomimes everyone goes through, pretending that society actually honors truth? Don't you think it's getting pretty grotesque at this point? And there are the lies we tell others, then there are the lies we tell ourselves. Both instances, the reason why is always the better story. Sometimes the reasons make even a kind of sense. We tell ourselves that so as to better hide our shame of something. We lie to our children generation after generation, encouraging their beliefs in Santa and the Tooth Fairy, then wonder why as adults they no longer believe us about much of anything. Doing the research that I've done over the last couple of years, and being luckily enough to talk to a lot of people because of that, and I did get some questions from the last show, and I will remember to answer them. But listening to all the traumatized souls that have come to me have taught me a couple things. I think the most important was to treat the soul on a etheric level rather than dealing with people as just meat sacks in 3D. And although there are more and more people to work with and things haven't gotten easier over the last little while, it's, for me anyway, in the last 5 years, I've kind of found my calling in a way, whether or not there's surplus people who are in trouble right now. The only reason I mention this is because by far the number one killer of relationships and people, I think, is a lie that becomes a pattern of deception that no one will acknowledge. And this, of course, spreads out. But it can go between just talking to yourself and then talking to others. There's a lie that rolls and always gets worse, because then you need more lies to cover up the first one. And, even media, as we've talked about before, media, politics, all of the controlling mechanisms have had to lie worse because their lie was so bad to begin with. Now there has to be new methods and new tools, and perhaps you guys have heard of reverse speech. It was discovered in 1983 by an Australian linguistic researcher, David Oates. When backmasking tapes of human speech or playing them backwards, Oates discovered that within the garbled, unintelligible, backwards audio, there were often clearly heard phrases spoken in a very normal voice. In his first book, Beyond Backward Masking, the media attention came in 1987. A couple years later, he moved to the United States to promote and advance his groundbreaking research, and of course what later became known as reverse speech. People began paying attention and taking it seriously when Oates appeared on the Art Bell radio show, Coast to Coast, 1996, a year after his second book was published, Reverse Speech, Voices from the Unconscious. Oates became a popular guest, as he always brought a nice selection of reverse speech examples, usually from politicians and newsmakers of the day. One presidential reverse, which got a lot of attention, was the George W. Bush was speaking about the war on terror, but in reverse, what he says is, "We'll rule the world, Dad." Just one of very many revealing and truly spooky reversals from the smirking chimp president. Not only did this new engineering technology interest many people, I also saw what I thought to be a perfect application of this for many people, and have become very excited about these things. You can do very little research in this and find out how incredible it is, and how the truth actually points to itself. No matter how much masking and how much lies they have, our bodies and even our speech that we are, as a listener, triggered to hear, that emotionally triggers certain pathways, whether or not that's what that word means or not. So it didn't take the majority of us, of course, long to describe and realize how strong and powerful reverse speech can be. Even getting the equipment, if you're lucky enough to have that, you'll be intrigued how much this happens. The most intelligent people will not be able to normally get away from telling the truth. It's pretty powerful. Reverse speech is so powerful in revealing the truth that the White House has devised techniques to try to defeat it, teaching the president to alter his cadence, to try and break up the reversals before they occur. This is met with limited success, though, as the condemning reversals always pop up whenever a politician is talking. It happens for everyone. Reminds me of the one about how to tell if a politician is lying. His lips are moving. So working with reverse speech, after many disasters, you can find that no matter who you hear, if they are lying, they will have a tell, like a card player. But the reverse speech isn't just a tell. They come out and say things like "burn with nukes." Obama said that when he was talking about Syria before they officially decided to go in and help them with guns and bullets. I've discovered that the vast majority of people simply don't want to know what their reverse speech are saying about them, and I don't blame them. You know, everyone who has Windows can actually do this for themselves. And you can listen, and it is quite spooky. But again, you know, most people would like to not really know themselves, although kind of limits its use as a tool for therapy or self-improvement if you won't use it. But there exists several credible applications for this technology far beyond personal growth. Reverse speech is being used in business partnerships, transactions, as well as homeland security, the police, private investigation companies. The world of reverse speech is filled with metaphors such as eagle, wolf, whirlwind, many others, each with their own unique meaning and interpretation. Recognizing and understanding these metaphors is key to properly using this technology. Furthermore, there are two basic types of speech reversals which commonly occur. One, incongruent reversals are saying the exact opposite of what is being said, and complementary reversals are those that agree and give added weight to what is being said. In its most basic form, reverse speech serves as an excellent lie detector, which is so efficient that it even reveals the lies we tell to ourselves without realizing it. Reverse speech reveals the truth of the matter because it bypasses all known human defense mechanisms and gets right to the heart of the matter. It can be very blunt and brutal, awakening to the truth, one that the majority of us are not ready to embrace, but it is a truth and a way to the truth that they must not have expected. Do you remember the Eagles? Ain't no way to hide your lying eyes? Well, that's true too. Another new, intriguing technology was discovered some years back by Dr. Paul Ekman, an expert in nonverbal communication and body language who pioneered the science of face reading. The fascinating world of micro-expression. Dr. Ekman has compiled an atlas of emotions comprised of over 10,000 unique facial expressions and is known as a human lie detector. His seminar work is on specific biological correlations of specific emotions, demonstrating a universal and a discreteness of emotions using somewhat of a Darwinian approach. That apparently all humans have this. Doesn't matter even how far remote they are. We have certain micro-expressions that are standard. Now, similar in reverse speech, these are very brief facial micro-expressions reveal the truth of our emotions despite what our words may be saying. They last only fractions of a second. These micro-expressions are usually invisible to the eyes, such as speech reversals are to the ear. But just like the sounds and the consonants that we started with today, our bodies are actually meant and triggered so that we can detect these. We probably do without knowing it. One of the reasons we get tense listening to someone, and you see little twitches, and you may not even realize that's what you're seeing. Part of you knows these are going on, and it's just been proved with science. Now, while no one has to learn to actually hear speech reversals in real time, to my knowledge, no one can do that. It's a different story with micro-expressions. They can learn to spot a great many of them and just know what they mean. Now, if you've been around people who are very wary of what's around them, and again, I'm not talking about psychics here. I'm talking about people who have been in danger in their life, who have been in stressful situations, who have had to, maybe even people who are burglars or mobsters. I know we usually look and talk about higher, I guess you might want to call it a higher level, but, considering our own government is stealing from us, at what point is one a bad person? But bringing it back to people who are security guards, who are watching on a camera, usually know where to look to see if someone's stealing. Not just that, the person who is being watched will most likely put that thing away. Neither of them know that the other can pay attention. Of course, the person stealing can't possibly know that he's being watched, and yet something tells him. So again, as I'm looking at the technology, and even though they're finding this, what I'd like to say to you is, on a very basic level, we know these things immediately. We already know. Okay? So, let me go on. And I think the more you think of it, you'll think of thousands of different examples of this kind of thing. Where you're walking, you just get this tingle at the back of your neck, someone's looking at you, or, you need to stop at that moment. So, the signals we're getting from around us, know that our eyes are relatively limited on the spectrum, but I don't think we are limited, or we wouldn't ever be able to do those kind of things. When you know someone's about to attack you before they open their mouths, or someone's odd just by looking at them, and they may not be doing anything odd. Do you know what I mean? Okay, so there are telltale manipulators that give away when a person is lying, like touching the face, the lips, the ear, a wrinkle of the nose, or snarling of a lip, lasting perhaps 15th of a second, always denotes disdain and contempt wherever you are in the world. You've always heard it said that the eyes are windows of the soul, and if you know what to look for, the eyes also will reveal if someone is lying to you. Most usually, if someone looks you directly in the eye when answering a question, they are lying. Repeating a practice performance of deception, and when they are looking in your eyes to gauge the success of their lie. A person's eyes move or shift to the left when answering a question. They are accessing the memory part of the brain and speaking the truth from memory. However, if their eyes shift right, it means they're accessing the part of the brain that builds and constructs stories, narratives. They're lying to you. As I said, most usually. Yet another case of art imitating life. Dr. Ekman's work with body language and micro-expressions was turned into a TV series, Lie to Me, 2009 to 2011. I was so sad when that ended. I thought it was a really good teaching show. It was starring Tim Roth, which served to bring the subject to public awareness as a kind of extension of the study of body language in general. When someone you're speaking with suddenly crosses their arms across the chest, it is an involuntary defensive mechanism, meaning they feel threatened or insecure, and they don't want to engage the subject matter for whatever reason. Micro-expressions present at the same time can give an added insight into the person's mindset if you know what to look for. In every case, these subconscious tells, again, that card playing expression gives us away whenever they are in conflict, revealing things they don't want to know or want others to know. A sudden, brief flare of the nostrils denotes apprehension or agitation. Crow's feet around the eyes with push-up cheeks denotes happiness. That little wrinkly happy. You can almost feel it in your face. Eyebrows down and together with glaring denotes anger. Eyebrows raised and together with raised upper eyelids denotes fear. Drooping under eyelids with lip corners turned down, sadness. Lip corner tightened, raised, one side denotes contempt. Brief wrinkling of the nose denotes disgust or disdain. Both corners of the mouth turned sharply downward denotes arrogance, a disgust, and a contempt. You think you're better. Oblique eyebrows with mouth slightly open denotes surprise. And such nonverbal communications is going on all the time. You can tell when people stand together, even how they feel about each other, where, especially with men, sorry guys, you will find that if men are standing with each other, they have their hands clasped together and they're kind of between their legs, put it that way, or, at least their hands are clasped together and held down. They're feeling very uncomfortable with that situation, so they're protecting themselves. That's what a crossed arm does, and you can feel it as I'm saying it, most likely. Now, all of this non-verbal communication is going on all the time. I think that's why, and I've told you guys before, my grandmother and my uncles, my father, are so incredibly good at that. I felt that maybe there was a psychic component, but there were other things. Maybe how they walked. You can just tell things. And it's probably a bit of this, all of this, micro expressions. Now, research indicates that a very small percentage of the population, around 5%, are naturals. Well, there you go. Meaning they can see and understand the language of micro expressions without training. They are human lie detectors. That's what I think. It's on my dad's side of the family. I can imagine that being one of these naturals would be a blessing wrapped in a curse, because basic human nature seems to orbit the Death Star of don't ask, don't tell when it comes to keep its secrets from each other. Right? And some of them are easier to read than other ones. Like, you see so many pictures of Obama with his head in his hand, and he's kind of flipping the bird. Probably doesn't mean to flip the bird, but it's pretty obvious to see that, yeah, he's looking at him going, hate you guys. And you can see a lot of that. So get a chance today, look at some pictures of celebrities or politicians and see if you can get what they're doing. Now, reverse speech, body language, micro expressions are all natural reactions to imbalanced energy within us. These are the body, mind's way of telling us that we are involved in some kind of conflict of truth, if you like. Now, being in harmony is desired. It is a remembered state of being that we all secretly strive for and desire. Without such harmony of mind, body, spirit, the energy must manifest in some way, especially the incongruent energy, the things that are against us and we know are wrong, always has to manifest. So it comes out as involuntary subconscious speech reversals, body language, micro-expressions, clues the observant person that something is wrong. Unfortunately, the vast majority of us tend to ignore such messages, even if we know they're right. And all of them are from our corporeal form. And rather than take action to correct the imbalance, we just let it go. Oh, we tell ourselves that we'll get around to fixing this or that little chink in our holy armor in order to consciously justify pulling it off. But then we seldom follow through. Somewhere deep inside, in the silence, the heart of things, we know we're really lying to ourselves, which in turn triggers still more defense mechanisms and neuroses. It turns out the old saying has a basis in fact. Honesty is the best policy. History records no struggle more noble or long enduring than that of humanity against the truth. We ignore and gloss over our own little self-deceptions, which I suppose makes it easier to overlook everyday little deceptions of those we deal with in our various entangled relationships. For example, when two people first meet and are attracted to each other, they often begin the dating process, which each person does everything they can to show themselves in the best possible light, while simultaneously hiding and concealing their faults and their shortcomings. And we've all done it. But isn't it really like starting a relationship based on deception? Are we so afraid of loneliness and rejection that we prefer toxic relationships with other wounded souls? Maybe it's also true that misery loves company, but it just seems like a waste of time to me, a waste and a kind of pointlessness. Whenever we base and begin, especially romantic relationships, for some reason other than the right one, such liaisons often leave a spark of resentment in both people, which in time can rage into a nightmare full of nasty things that resentment breeds. Sir Walter Scott, I think, had it right. What a tangled web we weave when first we practice to deceive. The other really cool aspect to honesty is you never have to remember what you said. To one degree or another, society has always worn a set of blinders when it comes to honesty of our politicians. These days it has morphed into a full-on blindfold we give ourselves because we just really don't want to know how deep the rabbit hole goes. Kind of like a friend of mine and several friends of mine that reject even the boldest truths to keep their illusions and deceptions safely in place. In other words, it is an act of insanity to be well-adjusted when you live in an insane world. These truths are out there. It's just the big question is how many really want to look at them. And we are in a cosmic crapshoot right now. I've heard it said that every birth is an act of violence and every death is a suicide. In between, I guess we live as slaves here. Slaves that are being used against each other. We've seen so many things that are obviously deceptive, and I can't go on with the rest of our deceptions. I definitely can't go forward until I talk a little bit about the Grammy Awards that were always, and I won't do the halftime thing. Actually, I thought it was pretty good. But the Grammy Awards are always pushing the Illuminati, which I've told you before is an Italian word, and that agenda. 2014 Grammy Awards featured a black magic witchcraft ritual disguised as Katy Perry performance. Are you surprised? I guess at this point you shouldn't be, because that's been going on for years. So I'm going to look at the Illuminati agenda pushed forward this year's Grammy Awards. They apparently had something for everyone. The old school rockers might have enjoyed seeing Paul McCartney, Ringo Starr, Willie Nelson, Metallica performing live. It is the current industry puppets who reach the youth, of course, and their performances that are riddled with symbolism and messages, since this is how we see, and it's even worse for the kids. And we've talked about the incredible way they've been trained in the last 20, 30 years specifically. Now, unlike the older singers, the performances given by Beyonce, Katy Perry, even Macklemore, were not strictly about music here. Their performances were devices that pushed the Illuminati-sponsored agenda. For years, I've been stating that the music awards, celebrations, and ceremonies are a celebration of what the Illuminati industry stands for, as their choreographed format offers the industry an opportunity to imprint the collective mind with specific images and messages and symbolism. After each award season, I notice a growing number of people realizing that something is off with the music industry, that it promotes a very specific set of values and attitudes. Is the public getting wiser, or is it just becoming too obvious to ignore? Whatever the case may be, the show prompted people such as former University of Alabama quarterback A.J. McCarron to tweet, "Is it me, or are some of the Grammy performances so far really demonic? Looks like there's a lot of evil in the world." E! Online, did we just witness an actual witchcraft during Katy Perry's Grammy performance? That was from E! Online. So, let's look at the lowlights. A term I coined because that's pretty much what I do on this site, and as I talk about it, of the performances. Beyonce representing the Beta Kittens. The awards began with Beyonce singing the words, I've been drinking, I get filthy when that liquor is getting into me. I've been thinking, why can't I keep my fingers off of it, baby? This was a line that they said when kids are up. Beyonce. Do you remember the words from Queen songs? And then our kids are listening to this crap, and it's being passed on as music. From that point, I knew that these awards would probably not be child-friendly. Dressed in a leotard, revealing some of her most bootiliciousness, Beyonce's performance was as suggestive as the song lyrics. This prompted many parents to complain, but why? This was on television at 8 p.m. While children, many of them, look up to Beyonce, are still awake. Others noted if Miley Cyrus gave the same performance, there would probably be a violent revolution right about now. Beyonce's performance was in fact an accurate representation of her recently released visual album, which contains a bunch of very suggestive videos. After watching that album, I can safely estimate that 80% of the footage consists of close-ups of Beyonce touching herself in a sensual manner. In fact, in this album, Beyonce appears to play the role of Beta Kitten that is programmed to be on all the time. And if you don't know about beta programming, go to my page, derlilanew.info, look up MK Ultra programming. You will see that kind of stuff. Now, some videos in Beyonce's album contain more monarch programming, symbolism. Like the scenes of her video portion is a true nod here to Beta Kitten programming. There's usually two Beyoncés representing a split of personalities. They're behind bars representing being an MK slave. They're covered in animal prints representing kitten slaves in the Illuminati symbolism and the fact that they love dressing black women in animal prints to dehumanize them. You'll see a lot of that. It's just like they like to put black men at least once in a dress. Okay, so Beyonce's Grammy performance is therefore in line with the main theme of her visual album, the Beta Kitten programming. Televised at the very beginning of the awards, her performance is yet another instance, an award show exposing millions of young minds to heavy over-sexualization. Next, you have Katy Perry the Witch. The most blatant part of the awards was undoubtedly Katy Perry's performance, which was so blatant it even caused the non-aware viewers to be disturbed by its satanic overtones. The performance began with a sinister voice saying, "She casts spells from crystal balls, invoking spirits. She has put me in a trance." Like I told you last Thursday, children are being told to call these spirits, little girls especially, to fall in love with a monster. There's nothing like a cute boyfriend who may rip your throat out to have a good time. These things are being shown over and over again. Now, inside the crystal ball, Perry sings while 4 horned demon-like figures raise above her. And some of the sinister figures have Baphomet-like horns, of course. Katy then gets out of the crystal ball, moves around with her backup dancers, remotely controlling them as if they are under her spell. Seeing the performance, we quickly understand that the song is not about love here, but being under an occult possession. The chorus of the song basically reflects what happens to those accepting dark pacts, not unlike most of the unsuccessful people, or of the successful people who do it, of course, in the entertainment industry, who were in the audience watching. So you want to play with magic? Boy, you should know what you're falling for. Baby, do you dare to do this? 'Cause I'm coming at you like a dark horse. Lovely lyrics for the kids. Then Katy apparently summons the dark horse. Is it a reference to the dark horse of the apocalypse? The dark horse was muscular, bluish in color, glowing red eyes, strikingly similar to another horse seen on my site, the Devil Horse of the Denver International Airport, with said red glowing eyes. And that scary horse stands in front of the Denver International Airport, place full of New World Order symbolism. The horse in Katy Perry's performance, a reference to the demon horse. That is what people in Denver call it. They do. They call it the demon horse because that's what it looks like. Because it glows in the dark at night too. So later, Katy then dances around with a witch's broom turned stripper pole, of course, for a little while. So it gets a little bumpy and grindy. To complete the ritual, her backup dancers light up a circle of fire around her. And in demonic circles, there is nothing more precious than corrupting a pure mind. Nothing is sexier, not even the rituals of blood. This is a higher form of magic here, and a deadlier one. Now then, as she's grindy, fire around Katy, while the horned figures stand and watch her ominously. The glowing red cross, Katy's dress, of course, the red cross of the Knights Templar, and several of the other red crosses that we've talked about. Knights Templar, of course, medieval occult secret societies that was considered to be the originator of Freemasonry that joined with the Jesuits. the Bavarian Illuminati, the keepers of the secrets of sex magic, and practiced by Crowleys. OTO, the Knights Templar, of course, were persecuted due to their alleged worshipping of Baphomet, but mostly it was because of the money that they had, and several of the princes in the Vatican owed them a lot of money. But we had heard as well that even though the Vatican turned against them, some of them, and they were the richest ones, got away. Barry was wearing the cross, therefore it's very fitting. Also represents occult elites, philosophy as a whole, and theosophy, society, and what became the New Age crap that's all over, with people believing that the land of Lemuria is not the land of the lemurs, and she made up a whole friggin' story that people are, of course, falling for. Hook, line, and sinker. Now on the cover, the dark art of the Dark Horse features a wonderful all-seeing eye, of course, on the top, signaling that this is sponsored by an occult elite. Also a bird in a cage to hint occult mind control elements of the song. So listen, all ye children. In short, Katy Perry's performance is the reason why I call the award ceremonies mega rituals, because they always are. And promoting this movie, Maleficent, continuing in the exact same vein as Perry's Black Magic themed performance, the Grammys were also used to promote the latest Disney mind control Let's Rape the Children, Maleficent. The movie, which features a very scary Angelina Jolie as a horned evil witch from Sleeping Beauty. Again, the little girl calling up the dark forces, the dark evil queen, the scary stepmother stuff, but this is taking it away. Trailer shown at the ceremony featured the song Once Upon a Dream, sung by Dana Del Rey, another figurehead for Beta Kitten programming, and you can see that 98% of her music videos are like that. Not unlike most of the Grammys, this Disney movie appears to be aimed at very, very young people. But there are not so hidden dark undertones to it. In the trailer, we see Maleficent, I'm not sure how they're going to say it, dubbed the mistress of all evil, placing a curse on the baby Aurora. This is a good image to represent what the mass media is doing to the youth. The trailer ends with Maleficent saying, "There is evil in this world, hatred and revenge." Then she laughs. Whatever you say, Disney Corporation, all hail. You sucking bastard. Sorry, had a cough. Anyway, so then there is the church service. The awards then took an odd turn when Macklemore performed his pro-gay song, Same Love. The performance featured 33 couples, against the numbers that we were talking about last week, symbolic Illuminati number, led by Queen Latifah, right after Madonna, Grand Priestess of the music industry, of course, herself came to sing to her subjects, holding a scepter, symbol of power. Madonna gives her Grand Priestess blessings to the mass weddings here. Performance took place in a mock church, complete with a gospel choir, under which 33 couples were legally married in front of everyone. That is essentially what the Illuminati industry is trying to do, become the new religion of the masses, complete with televised mega rituals. Now, as this is going on, we're seeing couples kind of walk towards the ark 2 by 2, except they're all gay couples. I could not watch this and not think, okay, so now we're going to populate the new ark with gay couples that cannot procreate. We are now watching the end of civilization as we know it. I have nothing against gay people, but this is what I saw with that. This is what I saw. So the usual. 2014 Grammy Awards awarded artists in the industry that deserved a reward. Up to them, I guess. Published messages the Illuminati wanted to push. While many performances were simple and sober, those given the most influential artists today were heavy in messages and imagery. From Beyonce's Beta Kitten performance to Katy Perry's Black Magic Rituals, we see once again that the important events are always the ones used to brainwash the youth and steer it in a specific direction. Get them while they're young. You know, as Katy Perry's song said, once you're mine, there's no going back. We have certain words I call power words. Instead of going backwards, we should be going forwards. But what are these 4 words? Are there 4 words that give us foreknowledge? Or, again, foreknowledge? We've been told that our ancestors or forefathers made history. Who are these forefathers? The Tetragrammaton, Yahweh, which is the Hebrew word that remains as a root of many esoteric names such as Jehovah, Yahweh, consists of only 4 words. As we continue to see, there is something diabolical going on here with the 4, which is sacred geometry. It is a 2-dimensional square, a 4-dimensional cube, an 8th-dimensional octagon. This is how the worlds connect. All the words, like Dionysus, Dios, Diana, diamond, die, divide, diabolico, and diablo, are all intertwined and related with a story in antiquity. We'll be...
Unmute your mic, Trace. You're live, baby.
Oh, yes, I forgot to unmute my mic. Whoops. Well, we got some news we were forewarned about. The latest flash indicates a severe earthquake and eruption at Yellowstone National Park. A size of a meter inside a borehole at Yellowstone National Park has begun reporting staggering underground activity near the southwest corner of Yellowstone Lake, possibly signaling the beginning of an eruption of the supervolcano at Yellowstone Park. This could be a nasty one. As we've talked about before, it's at the mouth of a supervolcano just located in the park and could potentially wipe out most of the United States. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. Perhaps interesting. I'm looking up for today what's going on. Today on the 4th. Well, it doesn't surprise me so much that things like this happen on the 4th, unfortunately. Not at all, really. Now, these power words. Again, the D itself in the English language triggers a certain symbol. It is a symbol of a circle divided in half or split with one part missing. If you open a breaker box right now, look at the manufacturer of the breaker, you'll see a company, square D. Logo is D inside of a square. They control everything related to power, as it will be shown. The esoteric Masonic studies were focused on what they called squaring the circle. Since all organic life contains no straight lines and is always curved and circular, this was the art of trapping organic life and holding us in all of our various forms in stasis, trapping natural organic matter like you and me in inorganic cubes like cubicles we are sent to work in every day, in the houses we are given to live in, sometimes foolishly built for ourselves in completely wrong designs, putting ourselves into cubes, calling them home. This is another fine example of more subtle programming. They are masters of the 2D primitive world of matter, which is black and white with no color. Thus the black in the white checkered pattern is one of their signs used so often. And we can go to the Masonic G checkerboard patterns that you see in so many movies, shown over and over again. Reason 123. What is hidden comes in plain view. You will see their signs everywhere. They own huge companies such as Checkered Cab of New York. He makes the sign of an L as the owl, sacred bird of Isis, which you will see in many pictures. Some are still human. Some are, however, not. And we will face them either way. Their plan was almost complete with Sir Winston Churchill when he was in on it, but that should not surprise you. Their magic is that of mastering the cube, as the world is treated as the grand chessboard. They will also master how to move about the square without getting caught in the web. Have you ever seen a spider trapped in its own web? All of the pyramids at one point in history were connected. They had a functioning capstone on top. Not to mention many of the pyramids were completely coated with a substance that was washed away during the last flood. This substance allowed these great structures to reflect the sun's energy, giving them ability to become like large solar panels, generating various energies depending on the tuning. Deeper writings, it states that the gods would land their ships on the top of these structures. They would serve as perhaps charging stations. Those traveling the desert could navigate by the shining light of the Great Pyramid, which was seen in details of ancient writings for miles and miles and miles, perhaps thousands. The much older Hindu Vedas describe detailed accounts of ships again being used by hyperdimensional beings. When the gods visited the earth, they would arrive in these large ships, which were in other written accounts as large as flying beasts, because they made, or at least talked about like beasts, because they made monstrous noises, sometimes described as a whirring or whirling sound. That was even talked about all across North America in the exact same ways. To me, that sounds like obvious the sound of engines. They would set themselves up in temples man had built for them, lounge, and get served. This is one of the earlier versions of the Matrix, I think, that was washed away at the last Aquarian age flood that we are still in right now. It seems that the destruction and chaos of these Aquarian ages were not limited to just unsuspecting people, but often the deities themselves get destroyed by the forces of nature. When I say false, I don't mean they didn't exist. I mean they lie, and what they say is false, as in not true, because they never make good on their word. This is how the whole cosmic clock is tuned. Right at the time when things are about to reach a critical mass and all hope has vanished. Right at the time people think there isn't even a Most High. Right at the time deities, peoples, beings, and every created thing is in motion, a click happens that expands or contracts the experience, and it's up for you to choose. The Egyptians actually admitted there was a Most High, greater than all their gods, but because they had not made a contract with it, probably because their dominant attitudes, they chose to obey the entities that we're already familiar with. That's why they are called familiar spirits. It becomes clear with the sign of Aquarius that the water bear is dumping out a bucket of water on the earth, cleansing the earth from its current pesky inhabitants, getting prepared for edition number 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, whatever we're at now. Great Pyramid itself in Egypt said to have 18 inches of a special coating. Many people look at the pharaohs of Egypt, try to grasp how such an ancient empire was so far advanced. But as we've seen all over the world with pyramids being discovered almost weekly now, that there was a much older civilization, as is shown by Göbekli Tepe. That the sign of the lioness is used in modern symbolism related to a ruling monarch. Female, fertility, feline, feminine, all begin with FE for a reason. As you see, the crest of England, the ruling power personifies itself as a lion, which can also be mapped in the cosmos by the constellation Leo. Females are hidden by direct order, and the female role remains hidden and protected, or simply put, veiled in some way. As can be seen in Egyptology, the Egyptian female goddess Mat was the third eye of all the Egyptian gods, also known as Wadjet. This means that the eye on the top of the pyramid is actually the eye of Mat, or Ma'at. They keep the female sphinx in front of all their main lodges for protection against various spiritual forces the elites are possibly at war with. Egyptians kept large amounts of cats in their temples. Cats carry a lot of prana. They're very sensitive to other life forms. If any of you own a cat, you'll notice when it just kind of turns its head and looks off into space. I have 2 cats who do it at similar times, so you know there's something there. They are known to contain astral spirit that can actually be trained, as you will be delighted to find out, since it gives you power and strength to know that this none other than one of Ma's tricks, or simply the matrix that we are caught up in now. The Egyptian worshipped matter as a primal cause. Our word for matter comes from the word Ma'at. Atlanteans perfected the ability to take matter, which is the flesh formed and fashioned into the human body, then take the soul and animate the body with the soul. The matter was their creation, and the soul was, of course, creation of Most High. To do this, they would have to pull souls from lower dimensions, other worlds, wherever they could get souls. Finding souls was like mining for gold. This is the whole art called necromancy. Thus one cannot simply die and think it is over. They must somehow bypass reincarnation, which was always considered a curse, as if you'd been netted like a fish and pulled into the planet or the planned net. Cloning makes it possible to make the body. Necromancy makes it possible to animate the body with a spirit. This is the other variation of the philosopher's stone, which the alchemist used his body as a test subject. He would then add more elements, forces, spirits to his own body and enhance his abilities. If the alchemist did not have the correct formula on how to control the matter while the process was taking or working, it would result in his own death or complete possession. And that, my friends, is the alchemical key. You can trace the most recent use of this soul tampering in all of the Sumerian Anunnaki texts, in all of the texts of beings who were creating, or at least professing they were the creators of man and woman and created them to be slaves. As we've heard from the works of Sitchin, who, again, Freemason, sponsored by the elites, wants us to believe. There was a true story, and it's about the Danu, also known as Diawatha the Danan, tribe of Dan, the Danites, who were known to be giants, did discover the secret to Dan, or DNA, if you just play with the letters a little bit. Old Celtic doctrines speak of the Danu and some of their origin, in which they're clearly part of some Atlantean club, which explains how they also have the knowledge to alter humans. They are also known simply as An. The A in the English language is a symbol of Atlantis. Atl is used all across South America as well. And again, the A and the An just omits the crossing of the A. The crossing makes it a pyramid with a capstone. It was normally written to look like an upside down V, which meant 5. Mary's mother was Anne. She was carrying the lineage of a bloodline, so they could erect a world savior that all would eventually bow to, no matter how many they needed to create this. And this is ongoing since at least Mithras. Reason 124. The Egyptians symbolized the spirit as a snake, as did many African tribes, and again, Asia, Norasia, the Naga, it's again snake symbol, which most likely later meant Kundalini, if you want to look at it like that, our spinal energy that goes from the base of the spine to the top. Now I do have a glyph up. In this glyph, they have already trapped the spirit inside holding tubes. They are placing the spirits in the clones, matter, golem, so they may be endowed with the intelligence and the reason of the soul. Thus they make better servants rather than organic machines, which they need to take orders before they will engage. Now many people look at this as a light bulb, but if you read some of the symbols around it, I see it more like the radon tube that we've talked about before, and why they use the tube to collect souls. How the elite work is to expand the rule like a pyramid and elect many consorts in a system of hierarchy. They consolidate all the power that they pull from the people back into the main deity, close the top through the Hierophant priest, seldom distributing anything of true value. When the beings come to a new planet, they first set up a gate. The gates are destroyed, which have been happening. The being can no longer come into this dimension, trapping those who originally came through the gate on the planet until they are able to reconstruct a gate on the proper ley lines and make the jump back to the original planet. This is often referred to in many chronicles, annals, and even the Bible. It often reads, they tore down their gates and dispersed their gods. Reason 125. The eyes of Wajet, Ma'at, always shown separate, so you cannot visualize what a complete being would look like. But you now see it is not human. It is more like a predator. The giant pyramids, wormhole, 0-point configuration is probably how continuous reincarnation, or should I say soul snatching, is happening still to this day on Earth. Necromancy obviously became primitive when new ways to harvest departed souls was discovered. There are smaller cult groups still practicing Groatia the old way due to the information already known about the pyramids. If you happen to come out of your body while in the vicinity of a pyramid, it would eventually suck you in, like going down a sink. This is called the vortex, the wormhole, the black hole. When that happens, you would come out somewhere. As I mentioned briefly before, those spirits, strong spirits, have the thrust to trust they can jettison away from the whirlpool or the world pull. What I'm telling you is being composed as greater Israel is being realized right now. Of course, at the expense of thousands of Palestinian children's lives who have no clue of the significance of their land and their bloodline, as millions of the people that they said are their brothers and sisters, the Ethiopian Jews, that they are sterilizing before they allow it in. Even in Baghdad, soldiers were issued swords, as I have said, began cutting off heads of people with certain last names. By instruction of their commanding officers, people of Baghdad still contain the bloodline of ancient peoples. However, organizations like the Thul, who now have the UN and several world leaders behind them, intend to take all the gates for their purposes. Saddam Hussein went rogue after he began excavation and restoration of the ancient city of Babylon, located in Iraq. He was noted to spend at least $300 million using the best archaeologist money could buy. This is what the U.S. wanted, so they allowed Saddam to get to a certain point. Once he compared himself to Nebuchadnezzar, they knew it was time to remove him, since Nebuchadnezzar conquered the world and the U.S. was not going to see another rendition of that. Everything that is going on in Baghdad has to do with the Stargate of the Babylonians, the Tower of Babel. Babylon is on a very powerful ley line that has the ability of becoming a portal to cross dimensions with proper geometric setup. Marduk, Ra, declared Babylon his central city, coated everything in gold. Reason 126. There is a tradition of Babylon, ziggurat or tower, the king residing on top with gods in the clouds, and it is always represented in gold. As we already discussed, pantheism, it is belief and worship of more than one god. So we will review many popular gods amongst people. Marduk, who is Ra, takes most of the spotlight. He is at times head over the demonic pantheism of the inverted tree or the underworld or the netherworld or Neverland. All world leaders are rebuilding towers to Ra, who is their lord. Here are just a few of his generals, and we will call them the dark side. Abandon, Adramelish, Aramani, Amun, Apollyon, Astamodis, Aseroth, Azazel, Baal, Baalim, Baphomet, Bast, Beelzebub, Behemoth, Barit, Baal, Chamos, Chimerez, Coyote, Dagon, Dambala, Demogorgon, Diablos, Dracula, Emo, Eromanus, Furnares, Gorgo, Hadith, Ishtar, Kali. And there's many, many more. I can go on and on and on. There are, of course, many of these. However, these in particular rare. There are some in the Germanic Satanic Bible, or should be no questions with beings listed here, if they are good or bad. They are all orchestrators of evil. They are 100% dark-siders. Keep them and anyone representing them away from anything you love and care about. They are Sadlot, we should place great chains around their neck and drag them about in ridicule before they are particleized and dispersed in the winds. Reason 127. As you see, they are not really hiding their affiliation with Babylon, Bel, Ra, Marduk. Picture on the left. There's a people shaped like cubes all the time. These types of images are rich with symbolism. Tower itself is complete. Several other towers are nearing completion. And it's even more fascinating to see Vin Diesel, the actor, with a tattoo of the Necromonicon sigil on his neck in the movie Babylon AD. In another movie, The Chronicles of Riddick, he actually battled necromongers, the holy half-dead from the underworld who take over worlds by combining their souls with humans through non-voluntary possession. They take them. In Babylon AD, his role is to protect a woman who will birth the final seed of Babylon, the Antichrist, I guess. Okay, so the Antichrist twins with genetically enhanced powers, basically. What is being said in secret circles is, once the lineup happens, the gates will be open. Many beings will have the opportunity to go into different planes and dimensions through these portals. It is the time of great coming and goings. Last year, 2013, had the most worldwide sightings of UFOs ever, especially in the States. Now, the stars of Hollywood are, as below, resonators of the stars above. Person seldom gets into acting industry, establishes a career unless they are in tune with their position. Many actors can be found playing the same type of role, such as the savior role Keanu Reeves is often given in movies like The Matrix, Johnny Mnemonic, The Day the Earth Stood Still, Scanner Darkly. This is all part of heavy programming being done to the viewer. It is a fact that many people in Hollywood are initiates and know for a fact the roles they play are at times initiations. Madonna, again, who talked briefly, actually initiated Christina Aguilera on stage in another one of these ritual award things, dismissing Britney with a holy kiss. As the ritual entails, she begins by walking down a 13-step pyramid in front of a million viewers who only a few knew what was actually going on there. Watching Britney's career after that night was like watching a horror show, while Christine became Miss Teen, Cover Girl, etc. Same thing is witnessed with Rihanna in her Umbrella video, which Leonard Honor Films on YouTube did a pretty profound job exposing, amongst other amazing things about the film and movie industry, of course. Particular topic about how movies, cartoons, comics, and various other types of propaganda throughout history are all being used to communicate and portray Masonic and elitist ceremonies, inductions, current information, status of the world domination, has all been rolled up into modern style synchro mysticism. This world means a clear identification of certain patterns that involve esoteric activity embedded within media for various reasons. It has become so popular. There has been a synchro mystic Wikipedia is now formed. So you can go and look up these things. Reason 128, the media keeps constant broadcast of esoteric information going, which works twofold ways. It serves to keep various members of the elite in the know of current situations, while making the average person continue to believe it's all part of the entertainment. The year 2010 was anything but entertaining for those who were really watching. This unveiling, of course, these secrets that seemed to begin after the Twin Tower collapsed. Those who began investigating under the pretense of conspiracy uncovered a trail of immense proportion here. Many things revealed that we are not only dealing with a force that has the ability to traverse space and time, it also has supreme intelligence of a master architect or master builder. When you look into these matters, you find an inner network of people from various nationalities and backgrounds who are all in the know, which allows them to be more mentally, financially, and physically superior than the average person. When the Twin Towers collapsed, the tower card, number 16, the consciousness of the planet shifted, starting in Oz and New York. Same place. Twin Towers themselves represent giant tuning forks with the base of a structure infused into the chambers that kept the gold reserve. Even harmoniously was the letter C. And these parts, we're just getting into parts that aren't up, and I'll have them today. Reason 129, Twin Towers, which we will call Boaz and Joachim, were actually tuning forks, setting the frequency and consciousness for the city, which was silently the capital of the United States, the New York, the land of Oz. The globe placed at the base of the fallen towers is now controlling. Well, it is the controlling vice until the Freedom Towers are 100% complete. There has been a profound amount of publications found that date back as far as 1960, indicating that the tower would eventually be collapsed in some massive Masonic mega ritual. There are enough books and movies on full details of the 9/11 plot, so I will only discuss that many of the conspiracy researchers have missed a couple of things. Now that 9/11 has passed, it is for many just another moment in time because they did not lose loved ones. For those families who lost a loved one, they are torn between conspiracy and that conspiracy. In fact, that this was an orchestrated event that signaled the dawn of a new view of how we see our leaders. I will say that I believe those people did not die in vain. It was a signal event that made many wake up and start at least try to see things deeper. Thousands of lives are lost every day due to plans we cannot interrupt or interpret. We certainly can't prevent. If we would wake up and learn how spiritual world functions with its signs and its symbols, we would notice these things, of course. Reason 130. Since the elite are notorious for following the 22 card tarot deck, it was already divine that they would cause the tower to fall. In a FEMA terrorism self-study manual, the towers are actually shown with a bull's eye, or the eye of Aldebaran, over the South Tower. This manual was published in 1999, way before the towers fell. They already knew it was going to happen. The gold that was contained in the WTC towers was already moved to Dubai. In fact, most of the gold in the world is already in Dubai. One invests in gold bullion and would like to take delivery, well, you have to go to Dubai. In Dubai, it is very clear by the architecture that they are expecting the arrival of a being. Since, and I will use this word Anunnaki because most people know what that is, but I don't think it's those beings, but could be any of them. There are bloodlines here that trace through many regions of what is now the Arab world. It is almost guaranteed they are expecting the return of Marduk and have gathered the gold as instructed. These beings are at the root of the mental and physical enslavement that has faced man and woman, as also their bloodlines, the elite, are attempting to keep it preserved. It is clear these beings are masters at keeping their identity unknown. Although tablets are some of the oldest writing discovered, stories of these beings are contained on cruciform tablets did not really start to leak until after 9/11. Zecharia Sitchin wrote extensive books, of course, on these things, on their workings, but the books didn't get much attention from those who did not already do their own research. And as we have seen, he was very well funded, and you can read some of my articles about Zecharia Sitchin. Now, this tale that we've told to believe is reason 131. Again, Anunnaki were possibly oldest reptilian faction to infiltrate Earth. The elder Anunnaki eventually left Earth with the ship Naribu to return. Once there, the ship makes its next pass, as it does every 26,000 years. They left their sibling and offspring in charge while they were gone. So this happens every 26,000 years, and it was supposed to come to completion December 21st, 2012 at 11:11 a.m. Reporters say Naribu can be seen approaching from the South Pole. These are things that we were told to believe. We were told they were shapeshifters, although we have heard these stories all over the world that they took forms like birdmen, cherubs, dragons, even their offspring were supposed to be the Danu, Nimrod. They became kings of Sumeria, and they were large of stature. We can pretty much come down and say, at this point, there were some very large beings here. And that might have changed because of our atmosphere subtly changing. But before we move on from this subject, there's one more thing that must be known. It's apparent there is an interaction with many beings on this planet. Also, every week we're finding a pyramid, and we're finding a new form of, they call them archaic human, which is odd. Looks like there were many different kinds of Neanderthal that can be found in our blood today, but many, many others that some people still have remnants of. And some of these beings seemed very big. We still have some beings that are very big. You know, we look in Asia, and the majority of people are relatively slight stature, but every so often they get the tallest people in the world just springing up there. So these stories of aliens and angels and demons had to have come from somewhere. Were they actually winged reptilians? There's got to be some link. Furthermore, these bloodlines, these elite blue blood lines, have been ruling like tyrants. Blue is the color of serpent's blood. Magdalena was said to be the twin sister of Jesus, who was carrying the bloodline. She married into the House of Windsor, Hanover, Merkel, Goth, Vizsla, etc. These are all blue bloods. Finally, the Grail became Princess Diana, as she planned. Well, as planned, she brought forth Prince William, of whom many are implicating as the Antichrist. It's of value to remember that the Antichrist does not have the power. It is the beast and the false prophet who he teams up with, and they form a trinity. Lord Maitreya, which we have mentioned, was seen on a boat when a major meeting with the world's top secret societies, such as the Knights of Malta, took place. It is highly possible Lord Maitreya will be the false prophet at the time, and you can look him up. He's, I don't know, judge for yourself. I found him disturbing. The Pope agreed to take the position after the Maitreya rather than before. The beast is the red dragon. I don't feel that it's time to reveal who that really is due to the amount of disbelief that will occur. But we'll have to see. Now, when Princess Diana began to date Dodi Fayed, it seemed the royal house was very sore about it. Or is this all part of the plan to mix the reptilian bloodlines with some ancient bloodline? Anunnaki, for lack of a better term, guys. Because Anunnaki and Anki just means a mixture of heaven and earth. There's nothing about falling, and there's nothing about from heaven they came either. Just says the mixing. But I'm open to believe that mixing caused another group of people. I'm open to that. But another name for Anunnaki is Anu Doti. And that's how it would have been pronounced, which is interesting. When Diane's autopsy came forward, it stated she was pregnant with twins before death. It's also known by those who meditate day in and night and expect their maker at every moment that the Jesuit priests are training one group of twins all over the world. Twins have a specialty of both parallel, being born in the same room, thus combined have heightened spiritual ability if they continue to pursue it, of course. Reason 132, as seen by many statues, Prince Charles has no problem depicting himself as Prince Lucifer, who was cast out of heaven. The royal family are the laymen of some demonic paradigm, and they now control most of the world. This too is true. The Bible makes sure to include Satan as the ruler of this world. As they said before, they will have to be faced, or they will continue to decimate everything innocent and pure as their ranks increase, with the youth who are conned into practicing things abhorrent in the high heavens. Prince William, that golden boy, is continuously prepped for his role as the New World Antichrist leader. Surely he will be struck so hard his jewels will fall from the ground. But it is our children who are most being attacked by this over-sexualization. Now, there's another planet that used to be in our solar system. It has been called Meldek. It's no longer with us due to some other, perhaps civil war, something that went nuclear. Who knows? There are stories that said that there's a very big connection that will put pieces together for many who are already engaged in finding out what's going on, but can't connect certain things. Here's what I know at this point. Salt Lake City is located on the top of a vast underground cavern system, predating this interim of man. These cavern systems connect through underground Nevada Area 1351. Probably every major underground hub up in Mount Shasta and various regions of Alaska. Generally, they dig underground to extend this system. The system is controlled by unseen hands, possibly built by Atlanteans or some ancient culture that we had to have had. It can be seen as a backbone of the Matrix. Zion is already up and running, and it is the underground, which cannot be seen in the movie The Matrix, right? But it's also in the movie Ember, again, that looks underground. When entering the Mormon sanctuary, the highest priority is to trace your genealogy. They contain the world's largest database, and they're only rivaled by Israel's. The fake Jews there keep extensive reports to prove their lineage and bloodline, which is not Middle Eastern at all, most of them. You cannot enter inside the temple unless your genealogy has been verified by them. either one. We will continue to establish the link between these Anunnaki, the Heribus, Neribus, Meldek, and the Melchizedeks as we go on. This entire priesthood of earth reside under one roof. The divisions between the religions are now mending because they were always together in the background. One part of this design was to get people to continue to quarrel, which is chaos, called in Latin geo. This bides time. Chaos produces a mist or a smoke screen. When chaos is breaking out, anything can go on because everyone's attention is on something else. So let us look at the division of the minds of the world for a moment to see why they are not coming to the aid of those who really wish to go beyond this university, and into the cosmos, because the course is over. Some have the knowledge while others have the resources. They must join, or it is left for the one's individual self to make your body a ship, activating a portal and exit the dimension. When you head to the Arab world, they are monotheist and are waiting for the Mahdi, the 12er or the 12th Imam. Why is it taking these masters so long to show up? Their people are dying by the masses right now, and have been for a very long time. In reason, there should be no way the U.S., who they called the cursed Dajjal, a serpent beast known as Nekesh, should be able to infiltrate the Great Orient and murder everything in sight, as their power has somewhat waned, and they have been fooled to believe things that are not true, thus depleting their spiritual shield, which is a real personal barrier before the physical. Many are angry and have taken up arms against the Tabalcain. I ask the Arabs and the jihadists, did not your great master say the Tabalcain, the blacksmith, was the lord of weapons of great destruction? You cannot beat him at his own great art. Our strength does not lie in weapons, fashions of metal. It is with spirit, crystal power, and the control of the ability, particle energy, that moveth massive stones, even mountains, with mind, to lay waste to the powerful beast, to keep the malignant jinn at bay. We learn this from the Most High. The wise will always remain above things. The quarrel is between archons, dominions such as Jesu, rulers such as the Queen Lizard Elizabeth of England, principalities like Lucifer, kings like Asmodeus, 33-degree Masons. This has nothing to do with us, and our people should not be fighting. Reason 133. This official seal of the Dominion, the Order of Melchizedek, the High Priest. This links Christianity, Judaism, and Islam all together, the jewel of the 33 order of chaos, order out of chaos. I still find it amazing that although few people have already made it known, 33 degree is made to look like the highest degree when it is not. I know of 90 degrees by title, and there are 360 in which only one can hold the title of each. There's another thing to think about here. Everything is based on sound, and every combination of these sounds can be found on a piano scale. There are then 12 octaves on a scale, and a 13th overtone. If we are at 3, which is C, we are 2 scales away from the lowest dimension. When you hear the low keys on a piano, you will feel the vibration of danger those keys emit. You will feel it. And it's time to wake up and really understand where you are in this whole thing, rather than just imagining everything will work out itself. We must begin to engage life the proper way or face the results that negligence has brought. Please join us Thursday where we will continue. I will go over Reason 133 again. Thank you all for listening. Love you guys.
You're listening to Turtle Island News with Tracey Kennedy.